Hey guys, welcome to a demo of Fleet. So today we're going to show you how to use Fleet and how it works with Rancher and getting stuff deployed to your clusters. So here I have Rancher installed. I have 2.58. I have a cluster called prod here. And the first thing we'll do is we will add a label to it so we can refer to it later with Fleet. So we'll add a label and we'll call this environment and we'll say prod. So now this cluster is now labeled with the prod label for environment. If I wanted to, I can create a new cluster. So if I did add cluster, I can import a cluster that already exists. I can adopt a hosted Kubernetes, so EKS, GKE, and get that full lifecycle management in Rancher. I can also do other clusters. So this means this will give me a kubectl command that I can drop into my Kubernetes clusters and bring them into Rancher as well to manage with Fleet and Rancher itself. I had then also have an option to create an RKE cluster with bare metal or existing VMs. So I give it a Docker run command through this, and I can just drop that in with the prerequisites of it's OS agnostic, and it will set up a RKE cluster and register it back into Rancher. And again, we can use Fleet to manage it. The next option is if we have no infrastructure, we can tell Rancher to go create the virtual machines and also set up Kubernetes and let it register back into Rancher. So if we did like say Amazon and I call this test cluster, give it nodes 3, etcd and control plane, I can then come under here environment. I can add in env again and test. And then if I have my fleet rules, they will pick up this and then deploy my applications for test and prod. And we can talk about that. So let's just go to prod and let's just launch a kubectl here. Actually, we'll start a new tab with Cluster Explorer and we'll launch kubectl. So this loads whilst we continue. So this is the Cluster Explorer. So this just gives you an overview of what's going on in your cluster, what distribution you're running. At the top left, we go to continuous delivery. So this is Fleet. This is part of every Rancher install now. So the first thing we'll do is we'll need to create a group. So I have one here already. So I'll get rid of that, create a new one. And we'll call this env-prod. So we say this is a cluster group for environment prod. We say, now we again add that selector. So we say, if a cluster has this label set to this value, and then you can obviously change that. And we hit create, and then it should bring in our cluster. So if we go here, we can see that our cluster's been brought in. It has 3 pods, and it's ready to go. So we go to cluster repo, and we do create repo. So now we can deploy to the cluster. So here I am using the Fleet examples on the Rancher GitHub, and we'll call this Fleet. So we'll just call this example, and we'll do the simple test first. So we'll just deploy these Kubernetes YAML files. So these are just vanilla Kubernetes YAML files. We'll just pick up this whole URL. So we can go to code, copy the HTTPS URL. For SSH, we will need our keys. So since this is not authenticated, we'll just leave it as it is. We can pin this to a version, or we can go to a branch. Authentication, you can use SSH keys or basic auth. The GitHub or the Git repo doesn't have to be on the internet. It could be in your isolated environment as long as Rancher can resolve the DNS and reach it. The certificate can be your own CA or it could be a self-signed. So you have the option to do both. Since I'm using GitHub, I can just use a valid cert. For path, so this is the path of the root. So here I'm in the root of the repo. I will use simple. So simple. Then I select where I want to deploy to. I click my cluster group, which is env-prod, or I can use the plot straight to one cluster. So obviously I want to be managing multiple clusters. So I hit that. And now we see it's ready to go. So what this will do is it'll pull out Git repo now and deploy our services. We can go back to our other tab and do kubectl get pods. And we can see our application is running 7 seconds ago. And we can look at the services and we can see our front end's been deployed as well. So we'll just copy the node port and we will get the IP address of this node. So if we go here, we can go to any one of these nodes. So 100.1.100, drop that in, and we can see our applications working. Awesome. So let's then head on over to it and let's deploy a Helm chart. So let's just get rid of this. Git repo. We will go back one to this place, and we will go to, say, single cluster Helm. So we'll just deploy this Helm chart. Again, it's the same application, just as a Helm chart. So we will come back here, we'll do create, we'll say Helm example, and we will drop in the URL again. So we need this URL. We'll leave everything default. We'll add a path because we need to go to single clusters and Helm. And we can drop that in there, put in the // and deploy to environment prod. And let's get that going. So whilst that deploys, let's just bring up another shell. And we can see our application is being deployed again. And we can see these are actually going into a different namespace. So these are actually being deployed to Fleet Helm namespace this time, rather than the default. So if we did get pod-n Fleet, and we can see it's being deployed there. And we can look at the services. And we can go to that pod again. So we know the IP address. And we can see our application's backup. And this is time it's been deployed through a Helm chart. Thank you guys for watching this demo. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us on the Rancher Slack channel or the SUSE community. Thank you.